Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Laymen Daily Show. How is everyone today? So I saw something quite interesting, actually, when I woke up this morning. Phil Spencer did about a 40-minute interview, and at the end of it, he talks about Redfall. He talks very honestly also about the competition between Xbox and Sony. And I thought it was a really good interview, so we won't watch the whole thing, but I wanted to watch that with you. Some other news, reviews and discussions, and some trailers. Let's get into it, guys. There's a bit to cover. All this and more after the drop. All right, how's everyone in the chat? Raxi says hello. Leo, wow, you're Mr. Business, not even sending out any notifications anymore. You didn't get any notifications? I have a notification issue on this channel. Absolutely. Guys, hit the bell icon, all that kind of nonsense. It's definitely some sort of issue when it comes to that. Bizake says, I question his leadership even more after this video. If Xbox isn't set to make great games, what's the point of their existence? Why does Xbox exist? Good question. Good question. Let's get into it, right? Because it is about 10 minutes what we're going to play. And we'll talk and we'll stop and we'll talk about bits and pieces. But interesting, very interesting video. Probably the most honest I've seen Phil. And it seems like he's Xbox and him are definitely in a state of trying to figure things out, I think. Here we go.
Harris was just talking about what have you learned. And I want to go back to that in the case of Redfall, even just as a case study for things like this when they happen in general. Because Redfall wasn't even the only game to stumble out of the gate this week. Look at the PC version of Jedi Survivor. What a mess. Unacceptable that that game shipped in the state.
What a mess.
They must have known. It was like, oh, geez, the game has bugs. No, you knew, and you shipped it anyway. So EA Respawn, for even on a massive title like that, it's going to be a Game of the Year contender. We all know that, but like the PC version was unacceptable. My understanding is the PlayStation version's a bit of a mess as well. So we're still seeing this stuff happening on the regular. Just in general, when things, I'm fascinated, as you might know, I'm fascinated by the subject of failure because I've experienced a lot of it in my own career and in my personal life as well, and I think about it a lot. The number one quote that I stole from a person much smarter than me, I talk about it all the time when I talk about writing at creative seminars and things like that, is failure is not the opposite of success, it's a part of it. But that's only true if you can get past feeling sorry for yourself when something fails and sift through the rubble and start figuring out, well, what can we learn? What can we learn from this failure? What can we take from this? What is teachable? And so I wanted to ask Phil, both in general and in the case of Redfall, I know you said you were going to work towards kind of turning the game around, but like, do you have a formal process? And what does it look like in the case of Redfall when something doesn't meet expectations? Is it something you get into right away, or do you wait for the dust to settle? What is the post-mortem process? What is the what went wrong, and how do we prevent this from happening again process look like at Xbox?
I love that question. It's like, he's pretty much saying this is just failure. Redfall, total failure. So just talk to us about the failure and how you're feeling about the failure. Also, I'm just going to throw in the word failure again. Really setting up Phil here to give. You know what? He is setting it up to hopefully give us a very honest answer here.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think I love it.
Yeah, it's a great point. Oh, so many failures in that sentence. Where do I start? Oh, God.
Your quote, Gary, I might lift that from you. People don't have to care about this, but I'll talk about it. When we acquire studios, there's games that are in development when we acquire a studio, and then there's things that are either really early in development or not even conceived yet. And I think we need to improve on engaging in games that are midway through production when they become part of Xbox. I do think there's a different expectation for a game and even a team when you've been third party and all of a sudden you become part of first party. There's a different expectation in terms of how you're going to perform on our console. I think there's a different competitive set when people look at what this game is and the other games that they're going to say, hey, I want this game to feel as competitive as this other game on another console platform in our case.
I agree with that. I would say that when you do acquire a third party and make it a first party, the stakes are raised. I would agree with that. I think that people naturally then are not only going to associate that studio and those games with that console, maybe not immediately, but they're going to get to a stage where they think, oh, Redfall, Xbox, Bethesda, Xbox. And that association can either, prove to help Xbox or help a console, or it can further damage it, and it feels like it's amplified once you become part of that family, you know? So there's definitely a difference in expectations when it's no longer some third party that is just kind of existing on consoles compared to becoming part of that console, and like, you know, it's now part of, it's representing the quality of that console. Absolutely.
And we didn't do a good job early on in engaging with Arcane Austin to really help them understand what it meant to be part of Xbox and part of first party, and use some of our internal resources to help them and kind of move along that journey even faster. So we kind of left them to go work on the game. They're a very talented team. I love that team, and I still do, and I will totally bet on them to do another great game. But when I, like Matt Booty and Jamie Leaders, running ZeniMax, and I sit down, I think we could engage earlier with our different studios. And I do think there's a difference when we come in when the creative's already set on a game. That's not washing our hands of any of the creative. Every game we ship from our teams is an Xbox game. And so
I feel like that is okay. You know, I feel like he's sitting there saying, well, you know, there's certain things creatively, it's already set in motion and whatever, and we can only get involved so much. Creatively, one thing, but Xbox was very involved in shutting down Redfall to be part of the Sony ecosystem. So I think that the moment they kind of stepped up and made big decisions around which console it was going to be part of, that also is like, well, you also then should be making decisions of quality. You should be making decisions about the overall product itself. Is it ready to ship? You know, if you're going to dictate where it's going, and that's a big decision because that affects figures in terms of sales. It also affects the community in general. I think that's a big call to be making. So if you're making those big calls, then, you know, you can't wash your hands here and say, well, the quality, oh God, the quality, am I right? If only we stepped in earlier. You stepped in early enough to shut down the game on other consoles, that's for sure.
So it's a full responsibility for it. But thinking about how our internal processes of dev assistance, even some of our internal ATG resources, what's the Advanced Technology Group, and how those work with our internal teams, I think we can do a better job with our internal teams. We did a better job with Starfield. Again, nobody should believe it until they're playing the game, but that game was earlier on in production, and it was easier for us to kind of swarm a bunch of people to go and kind of help with some of the technology on our platform and ensure that we're going to ship a quality experience there. And we should have been there for Harvey and the team earlier. I think that's on us. And then through the process, you know, it's an Unreal game. We have a bunch of studios that have done some really great work on Unreal over the years. And I think we were too late to help in that when they had certain issues that they were working through, which any team will. It's nothing to do with the specific engine. But we have a lot of experience, and we needed to get on that earlier with the team.
I just cannot fully agree with that point. Like, I just can't fully stomach the idea of we were too late when there's nothing ultimately pushing this game out when it comes out, right? Like, as I've said before, the powers that be sometimes say, we want you to ship this game. QA testers, representative from Xbox, people from Xbox would have played this game and understood that, you know, it's important that every game that they bring out is not really a banger, but like it's quality. It represents Xbox quality. You know, as I said, it's under the umbrella of Xbox. It's now not representing a third-party studio. It's representing Xbox. So, you know, I don't think this whole like, oh, we weren't early enough. You could have done it the day before the game went gold, and you could have said, you know what, guys, it's just not ready. It's just not ready. You already made concessions about the whole 60 FPS and brought it down to 30 FPS. I mean, that already pissed people off, right? The writing was on the wall that there was big issues here. But 30 and 60 FPS aside, let's just talk about the quality and the bugs, and I've got a video later about the bugs of Redfall. But like, it's so clear that, you know, the reviewers were playing it for what, an hour or two before they were like, well, this is a buggy mess. The QA testers would have been doing this for a long time, and not to mention anyone from Xbox that sat down and played this would say surely would have. They would have seen that this is not ready. And that's the call that Xbox should have made. They should have said, this is not ready. We're not shipping this, all right? It may be a tough decision, but man, that's what was needed. Absolutely.
And we didn't do that. And that's not an excuse. You asked just to kind of diagnose. So when the 60 frames per second issue came up, We were definitely diving in. We had people from the Coalition and people from Rare and stuff looking, both teams that have done some really great work with Unreal to help us build a 60 FPS plan. But obviously that was a plan that had to be in place last fall in order for us to really be in a position to have it at launch. And
why is 60 FPS something that's a long-term strategy now? It's 2023. Like, I'm serious. Like, this should just be such a fundamental base norm in a game now, especially with the most powerful console ever. Like, it just should be just like, oh, we're shipping a game. It's the same as like, oh, it's a first-person shooter. Okay, well then the character will have a gun, right? It's the same level for that as me. Oh, well, it'll be 60 FPS. Like, this is how it is, you know? Like, this isn't some indie studio, number one. This isn't some small company. This is Xbox. They have the manpower. And any talk of like it's okay to ship a triple A game that's not 60 FPS at the minimum, especially when Xbox was talking about it's going to be 120 FPS all our games, or not all our games, but it was capable of 120 FPS. And then what it's brought down by like 80%. Quick maths, I don't know what that is, but from 120 down to 30. Now they never said that they were going to do 120 for Redfall, but what I mean is the console power of this can get to 120, but we're settling for 30? I mean, it's crazy. Come on.
I take that as learning, as painful as it is. But as you said, it's part of getting to success are those learnings and that diagnosis. There's a bunch of other stuff I could go into, but then we end up with kind of dev doc, which I'm happy to do. But yeah.
Well,
I feel bad. I feel like, like I think we'll talk about it. Okay, we only got a little bit. Well, actually, we've got another 6 minutes of this, right, out of the 10. But I want to talk about Phil and how he kind of looks in this, because I feel like he's really struggling.
Phil,
I think he's really struggling.
We don't have much time with you, so I'm going to go around the table, give everybody one final question for Phil. I'm going to rattle off a couple quick ones with you, Phil. Of course, we talk about 60 frames, 30 frames. Should Xbox players expect a clear message this summer with Starfield with 30 and 60 frames? That's a big lesson learned, as you brought up. Should we expect that answer? It's clear as day?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great one. Another one, you see a lot of conversation.
Whoa, he was just like, no, I'm not going. Yeah. Like, can we expect 60? Yeah, we can. Oh, okay, fuck. Okay, Phil. All right, next question. Shit, Phil's about to explode, everybody.
Of course, I want to praise you and the team for really elevating the PC side of this Xbox ecosystem. I think we've seen a lot of great strides in that. But when you see the community talk about the console side of things, do you think you've lost the focus or maybe put too much onto the PC side? Do you think that the console is still getting the console love that it deserves, whether it be the homepage update, achievements, of course, looking forward and using the power of this next gen? Do you think you guys have lost that focus, or is it still there, and can we see more love on that side?
Well, we'll definitely continue to focus on making our console experience as great as it can be. I like the homepage refresh and some stuff. I will say, this might be disruptive as well. We have a different vision. Paris talked about this. It's play the games you want with the people you want, anywhere you want. We want Xbox to be something that people who buy our console can feel like they're a member of. Obviously, who are playing on PC, who are playing on cloud, that they feel like they're full members of our ecosystem. Game Pass players can play on many different devices, and we remain fully committed to that. We're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo.
I think that's a massive point for him to say. I think that's huge for him to come out and say we're not in the business of out-consoling Sony. That, to me, is one of the most important things of what we've watched, because it's him saying we have no chance in fully competing in the space of gaming when it comes to consoles. We have no true chance here to actually give it to them. And I think that's huge, man. I think Phil coming out and saying that it's realistic, it's honest, and as I said in my previous streams about developers and studios and companies coming out and being honest, the byproduct of that is, yes, there's going to be a lot of discussion and some people being like, oh, Phil, he's defeated. He is a bit defeated, and we'll get to that, right? But the honesty is good there, I think, because that's what the reality is at the moment. For the CEO to continue to be like, everything's great, guys. What are you talking about? We're killing it. I'd much prefer Phil to come out and say, you know what? We're really struggling here and we don't see at the moment that we can compete. But the byproduct of that, I think, is it does set a tone that this entire console generation is ultimately finished. It's not the console war. Xbox is departing from that. They're just like, we can't do this. We're doing our own thing. We're doing our own strategy to try and compete as much as possible. But, this is a great moment where we can see that the idea of the console wars, it's slowly slipping away.
There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of people, but it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're third place in the console marketplace.
And to say that he's third place, I mean, I'll continue, but man, I mean, it's so honest. It's so honest. And you got to applaud it, right? Like, I know it's not great for the marketing, but it's true, man. They are third place. They're more than third place. They're like strongly third place. If there was any sort of fourth contender, they'd be fourth place. You know what I'm saying, though? Like, I like Phil's honesty here because it's fucking true, man. It's true. And this is the first time I've seen Phil really talk about the reality of this, because all we've heard before is most powerful console ever. TV, Xbox, Call of Duty. It's always this marketing bullshit. It's nice to be like, you know what, this is where we're at and let's have an honest chat about it.
And the top two players are as strong as they are and have, in certain cases, very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, not on anybody else. Our vision is that everybody who's on console has to feel like they have a great experience and they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform. But we are not in a position, and I see it out there. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way.
I cannot fully agree with that. If there was a 10-year banger after banger, okay, it doesn't have to be banger after banger, but 10 years of consecutive high-quality first-party studio games from Xbox, you don't think that they would have a significant dent in the market? Oh, damn it. Okay, I've got to press those goddamn buttons before I do this. Do you not think that there'd be some sort of massive change in the market if Xbox didn't have or a suite of titles that made people go, oh my God, like, these are bangers. People are, it's got my attention. It's making me want to look at Xbox. It's making me want to look at the ecosystem. And the domino effect of that would bring more people to it. And then my peers, for instance, might be playing on Xbox. And that slowly but surely would bring more people there. Now, it wouldn't have as significant effect now in the middle of the console generation. I understand where he's maybe going with that. But to say that it wouldn't have any tangible effect, that's just wrong. We are still, although they may be conceding on the console wars, we're still in a console war. And it may be slowly but surely going away. But to say that there's no reason to really strategize around high quality first party games, that's pretty much kind of what he's saying. I think that's just fundamentally incorrect.
We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focused more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems.
Okay, so when he says, they lost the previous generation and that was one of the most significant or the worst ones to lose, I understand what he's saying because it was the birth of the digital game almost, right? Before then, maybe you could purchase one or whatever, but like it wasn't really the done thing. Now we've significantly seen that most people, well, not most people, but a lot more people now will buy digitally. And to have that kind of library of games from the previous console being ported over, I understand that that plays a role. But again, I think that if people are walking in to buy a console, they're not necessarily caring that they have Hitman on PlayStation, like third-party games in terms of the library. I don't think they care if they have Marvel vs. Capcom or they have fucking whatever, or like The Witcher 3, any game that kind of came out last generation or the last couple of years before that latest console generation. I don't think that is going to be the most important thing that people are looking at. I think people are walking in and they're asking themselves, do I have 3, 4, 5 games lined up with this next console that's making me excited and it's going to be worth it? And PlayStation had that. It's as simple as that. PlayStation had God of War, Spider-Man, Death Stranding, even if it was from the previous generation. But a lot of exciting titles that people were looking forward to. And I think that is what's selling consoles still. It's not so much maybe what is the one game that's coming out for the console. What is the console seller? It's probably the suite of games, right? And Xbox doesn't have a suite of games that's selling consoles. It's just as simple as that. You may love Forza, you may love Halo, lol. You might like some Gears of War. You might like, Grounded, or like Hi-Fi Rush or whatever, right? That like really took that some people really loved Hi-Fi Rush, especially, but they're not console sellers anymore. They're not console in terms of Halo's not a console seller. Gears of War was a console seller, but it's not anymore. But you are walking in at the start of a console generation, partly because, yes, you've maybe enjoyed a previous console generation. Maybe you care a little bit about some of the library that you have. But really, most people are going to keep their previous console generation anyway, for a little bit at least. All right? It's not the major thing people are caring about. They're caring about the games moving forward.
And their digital library is there. This is the first generation where the big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen. When you think about Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, like the continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs and every new generation was a clean slate and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen.
I like that. Again, that's fucking honest right there from Phil. That's not CEO. It's like, let's just have real chat here. He's completely right though. One game, Starfield is 11 out of 10. It's the greatest thing ever. It's not going to shift the console wars, but you better believe it would have an effect. It would have an effect. If someone saw Starfield was like the game of the generation, it was a must play. It was something that was like God of War level previous generation. Everyone talked about it. Everyone was like, holy God, this has revolutionized God of War. And this has reaffirmed itself as one of the strongest first party titles for PlayStation. You're telling me that wouldn't have some sort of tangible effect? Each one will matter. It's not one Starfield 11 out of 10. It's 3 or 4 consecutive games that are very much part of the conversation. So although I understand, although I agree with Phil, it's not going to move the dial in terms of they're going to start winning the console war. But I just think inch by inch, Sony inch by inch over the last 10 years has consistently delivered quality. It's grown its street cred. It's continued to be a premium product, and it solidified itself as the strongest console in this kind of generation.
So what we have to do, and we have this unique vision because we see what creators want to do. Creators want to build games that can meet players on any screen. People play with their friends regardless of what other screen they're on. And the console is the core of the Xbox brand. There's no doubt. So like we will stay focused on making sure that console experience is awesome. But I know some people want to hold us up of just being a better green version of what the blue guys do. And I'm just going to say, like, there's not a win for Xbox in staying in the wake of somebody else. We have to go off and do our own thing with Game Pass, with the stuff we do with xCloud, and the way we build our games. Sorry, I was a little long-winded.
No, that was perfect. And unfortunately, we do have to say goodbye to you, Phil. I know that we have a hard out here, but I want to.
So that's, guys, that's kind of the bulk of it. And I think that's interesting. I really do. I really think, Phil, there's a few things to talk on there. I'll play this in the background. Man, I don't think we've ever seen Phil be that honest. Truly. I think that's the most honest we've ever seen Phil. In a time where they're being bombarded consistently from pretty much every AAA title that Xbox has brought out. Let's be honest. I feel like Phil, as much as he's tried to put on the strong but honest face, he's looking really defeated. I think Phil's looking super defeated. He's looking like this has been a very tough time. Yet again, Redfall has just been a meme. Halo Infinite, of course, was a meme. A lot of attention now on Starfield. And a lot of people aren't sure what the future holds for Starfield, what the future holds for kind of companies within the umbrella of Xbox, what the future holds for Xbox, but really what the future holds for Phil, man. Like, you know, there's something to be said about having a position of strength as the CEO and delivering a message of strength. That's important. But I will say again, strength, when it's all wrapped up in a lie, is like, it unravels quickly. It unravels quickly. We know the state of Xbox. So some people are going to say, you know, Phil looks defeated and it's over. But I applaud the honesty from Phil. But his defeated look and energy it's unmissable. You can absolutely see that. And here's the thing, right? Honesty can sometimes reset the tone, reset the conversation, can allow people to see things from other ways when they don't feel like they have to be so armed. Like, it's a very disarming thing when someone's like super honest. When they're just like, hey, this is where we're at, this is how I feel. This is what Xbox is kind of truly and honestly thinking. To come out and say that, they don't see a future where they're actually fully competing in the PlayStation space. Or at least he said at the minute, it's just not a thing. He's been quite honest and vocal about that. I think that's interesting because, people on Xbox that have paid that hard money, they want to still feel like there's a future where Xbox is competing in the console space. But I don't see that. And I think everyone doesn't see that, right? Like, we don't really see a future where we're truly going to be competing in the space, where Xbox is truly going to be competing in the space of Sony and Xbox. It's an interesting point, I think, on the whole digital space. Like, did that move the needle so much in the last 10 years when digital purchasing of games came along that the library was fattened out and people wanted to kind of keep that ecosystem? I personally don't agree with that. I know I'm kind of retracing here, but I've got a note here just to come back to that. Because I think that is a kind of a cop-out. Because no one is going to be purchasing a console based on what they played 8 years ago. No one's going to do that. You know what I mean? Like, most people can just keep that current previous gen. Or if they ever wanted to return to it, they can buy it for much cheaper down the road in the next couple of years, right? The price of a PS4, I mean, that's not what it was when it first came out. If anything, it's diminishing daily based on its old tech now. That's not going to be a reason why I stick with a console when I don't feel like there's future games coming out that are really reeling me in. And I think the biggest fumble when it comes to like console games, the biggest fumble was Halo Infinite was not released at launch with the console. And number two, if it was released, it wasn't an absolute banger. I know I keep returning to this, but Phil Spencer did say the reason we have an Xbox now and the birth of the Xbox was Halo Combat Evolved. We needed something similar here, we needed a phenomenon. We needed like a holy shit, Halo's back. You've got to play it. You've got to have it, right? But you know, with the whole scrambling for multiple different strategies, Xbox has, you know, moved away from the console, exclusively focusing on the console. They have Game Pass, they have the cloud, and they also have every first-party game, or most of them, if not all of them, do go to PC. And I think the problem with that is it means that people don't have to buy an Xbox, man. If you have a 1080 Ti, if you have like something pretty basic in today's age, you can play most games, man. You can still play most games. And that hurts Xbox's ability to look strong in the market when there's multiple ways to play to play IP off the Xbox. Now, I think it's going to help them in the long run. Like, I still think it's going to help them in the long run. If you're a console manufacturer that's losing and you want to try and wrangle as many people into your marketplace, into your ecosystem as much as possible, then, you know, having it on PC, on cloud, having access to Game Pass with a Game Pass PC subscription, that's all good things, man. That's all good things. I've been talking away. I haven't even really spoken to the chat. Jesus, that's just been boom, 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 boom today. But quickly, before I get to the chat, I actually want to talk about the future of Phil. He looks defeated. I think this is the most. This is probably the most appropriate time that maybe leadership would change. It's not just about this interview, right? But this plays into it. This plays into you know, where Xbox is at, where it's psychologically at. You know, we can't knock honesty. I'm really glad that he was honest, but the byproduct of that is we understand the insides of maybe how Phil's thinking, and if Phil's thinking a certain way, he is the head of Xbox. That's going to proliferate throughout and change a lot of the psychology of Xbox. And maybe Xbox does need a cold, hard, like, killer. Needs a winner. Someone that's just going to be like, fuck it, we're going to win this shit. We're going to do whatever we can. Whatever we freaking can. And yeah, you can say that they've been trying to do that with acquiring Activision and all that kind of stuff. But it hasn't been working. I think it's time for new leadership. I really do. I think it's time for new leadership, a fresh set of eyes, someone that's going to come in and talk about and talk about the new things that they want to do, bring a new excited energy to Xbox, and maybe a new strategy to truly compete. I'd be very surprised to see Phil there in the next 5 years. I just really would be super surprised. If Phil Spencer is still the CEO in 5 years, I'd be like, whoa, what the hell? It just doesn't make sense. CEOs are usually kept in place when they're continuously kicking goals. And, you know, the board or whatever are worried that, you know, why would we change? It's a risk to change based on how much we're kind of dominating the market. Now CEOs sometimes will naturally change after 5 to 7 years or 10 years or whatever. But when you're a CEO in this position, it's not making sense for them to continue to backfill. Which is a real shame. But I think that's kind of it. Sean, my sense is Phil is not a leader. He's too soft. I think Phil has tried to do a lot of good things. We can't knock what his achievements are. Leading the space in the cloud gaming, implementing Game Pass, and that having some of the most valuable. It's extremely valuable for a consumer. Now, the jury's still out on if it's actually good for the developer, and long term, is it going to be good for the gaming industry? But I think in terms of a consumer, Xbox does offer, aside from first party, it does offer a lot of a value in terms of the services and the way to play and the places that you can play, like PC and, of course, all the Game Pass games and the cloud and stuff like that. Like, you know, they're trying their best, I guess, but it's not working. Utopia. Sorry, there you go, Utopia. Sorry, if Phil's gone, it's just going to be another suit, though, who's even more disconnected. Not necessarily. I mean, this is the moment where they may really shake things up, and I don't feel like Phil Spencer's like a suit. Like I think he's a bit of a dude. Like, he's definitely, I think, somewhat connected to the gaming space, but I think there is somewhat of a disconnect there. Absolutely. Bun on Regs says, Game Pass definitely not good long term. It's hard, right? I think it's really good for the consumer. Really good. But if it's not a harmonized ecosystem where everyone's benefiting, like, I think some developers would definitely be benefiting. There's no two ways about it, right? Some developers would be, they'd be backed by Xbox in some... Okay, I'm talking more like a small studio that doesn't have a lot of marketing power behind them. Game Pass allows people to play it without purchasing. And I think that's really powerful. So in that regard, people will have it's a very low friction for them then. They go, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I already paid $10 for what's it called? Game Pass. I'm already playing it. I'm just going to jump into this new game that I haven't really seen before. I'll check it out. In that regard, I think smaller indie games and stuff can actually create a bit of a footprint if the game is good and if people start talking about it. Absolutely. Bun on Reg says, for consumers, it's good for indies. Good for indies, yeah. But the large AAA games shouldn't be taking all the pie. Well, this is the thing, right? I mean, I think AAA games, if they can sell for $70 price tag and they can sell millions of them, it doesn't make sense to be on Game Pass. But what it does, it can be very much like now it's on DVD, now it's on rental after it's been in the cinemas to try and keep people interested in a game for many years to come. Maybe it makes sense after you have a big release, a big AAA release, then you actually just release it on Game Pass. You've made your money on the initial release, on the initial hype, and now people are playing it on Game Pass, and that not only hopefully continues to deliver revenue, but it also keeps you in the conversation. The Laughing Rogue says, yep, a tight, no bloat, incredible start to finish 10-hour experience is 1,000 times better than one mid 100-hour game. I agree with that. And that's, I mean, any type of quality that Xbox can deliver in the next 5 years would be very good. I think that's really important. If they can, five titles, 5 really strong AAA first-party titles, I mean, consecutively would be even better. But something that kept them very much part of the conversation for the long term would be exactly what they need right now. And for Phil to come out and say, hey, man, like, making great games just isn't going to, change much. The entire reason Sony is where it's at is because it's made high-quality games. Simple as that. The ecosystem... third-party wise is pretty much identical on both, apart from Square Enix with Xbox, lol. But most games are going to be on both platforms. The console power, although Xbox is maybe a little bit more powerful or whatever, it doesn't matter. What is moving the needle here? It's first party. It is first party. Simple as that. But for him to say that, I just don't agree with that. Zach C says, is Phil losing his job? I would bet money on it. I reckon he is, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. Breath of the Wild is overhyped. How dare you? Get out of my chat. You're out. Oh, dear. Miles Kino says, the thing is, cloud gaming, in my honest opinion, kills quality in games. I'm excited about cloud gaming. I think cloud gaming is going to be really... accessible. It's going to be cheaper for the consumer. It's going to give us more choice. We can purchase the game full price and then we can play it on our phone, or we can play it on a 60-inch television. We can be in the middle of transit. We can be in a hotel room. We can be wherever, right? And we can just play a full AAA, high quality, high graphic experience with streaming. I think that's really exciting. So, I mean, who knows, right? And the whole Final Fantasy 16 and the whole Square Enix thing, and as we've seen with Sony apparently getting third parties to sign agreements that don't allow certain games to be on Xbox. Xbox has definitely got an uphill battle with acquiring the rights even just to have some of those third party games on their consoles, man. It's definitely crazy for them. Anders says, cloud gaming is legit. GeForce Now's premium offering is incredible. I've actually never tried that. Now, I know that they offer that in Australia, but I've never tried GeForce Now. I've never tried GeForce Now. I know Xbox uses a certain company in Australia that allows them to do the whole cloud thing. I don't think Nvidia had a server data center here. I don't think it was them. What else? SGark512 says cloud streaming only works if you have good internet, which most people don't. At the moment, we don't. But I mean, as 5G continues to roll out, and as we continue to see more and more, I think more and more high quality, stable, and consistent connections, we're going to be able to kind of conquer that. And that's just going to be like a thing of the past. It's like, you know, in 15 years ago, we couldn't sit there and watch a 4K movie on our phones, like streaming it, right? Like that just wasn't a thing. Now we can easily do that, right? That's just going to happen in the future. It's just a question of when, you know? Very, very interesting. What else happening in the world of gaming? Very important. Trump as a squid. You got to include that. Love AI, of course. And I saw this. I'm like, you know what? This is for the show. Fuck it. As if it's not. This is very crazy, actually. So, more than 9 million people have watched the Super Mario Bros. Movie since it was illegally posted on Twitter. Did you guys see that? I remember seeing that and thinking, holy shit, that's crazy. That's crazy. I literally watched a bit of it. I'm going to be honest here. Like, I've already seen it in the cinemas, right? They've already got my money. But when I was scrolling through Twitter, I was like, holy shit, the whole movie's here. And not to mention, I saw The Way of Water from Avatar. That was also on Twitter. You could watch the entire thing. An hour, because I think you can only upload up to an hour. So it's kind of crazy that this whole copyright system on Twitter is really broken. And it's definitely getting more and more meme-ish. I don't know what they're going to do to fix that. Mark Moses from Facebook says portable console is a thing as well. Yeah, absolutely. And Phil was saying that he's, which we didn't watch, but he said he was excited for the AROG, Asus AROG Ally. I'm excited for that too, man. I'm actually really excited to see what that looks like. Hopefully the price is right. And it's just going to be something that people can play more and more games on the go. I think portable consoles and portable gaming is here to stay. And the next Switch is going to be something portable. It's not going to be plugged into the wall. They like own that space now, right? That's kind of what they need. What else? This is... Okay, so the Ukrainian army is using Steam Decks to control electronic gun turrets as part of its military operations. Australia, we can't even get Steam Decks. We've got to like get them through third parties. If they need them for the war, fine. I will allow it. Oh, I thought that was a funny headline though. I mean, that's when you know gaming is mainstream, when they're using it for war. That's when you know. Oh dear. Who has a Steam Deck in the chat? Who uses it? I kind of really want to buy one, but I'm still very much like, I don't know if I fully want to. I don't know if I fully want to back it. Not sure if I fully want to go out and actually get it. Another thing is, who's a fan of Assassin's Creed Mirage? Apparently, there's reports that it's coming in August, according to GameStop employee who has seen information on their system. Ubisoft hasn't officially showcased gameplay or confirmed any release timeframe to date. So if that's indeed the case, then a showcase is imminent. I feel like there's like 400 million Assassin's Creeds, right? They're going to come out with the XP booster bullshit again. They probably will. Last one was Valhalla, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah, Valhalla was the last one. Scoopy McScoops, $1.49. Thank you very much, mate, for just showing a peach. Fair enough, man. Peaches, 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 peaches. Has everyone seen the Mario movie? It's grossed more than $1 billion now. I mean, it's just absolutely going strength to strength. You know what I really want to see? I want to see some stuff on Spider-Man. Speaking of that, Spider-Man is apparently reaffirmed this year. It's definitely coming out this year now. In its earnings call for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 conducted today, which a couple of days ago, Sony has reaffirmed that Marvel Spider-Man 2 release date will fall during the current fiscal year of 2023 to 2024. This is in line with Insomniac Games' repeated commitments for a fall 2023. This is a game we haven't seen much on. This is the weird thing, right? We haven't seen much of this at all. Edith, new member, thanks so much. I appreciate you. Yeah, for a game that's supposed to be coming out relatively soon, we've barely seen anything on this. I remember when we were first seeing Spider-Man, and dude, it felt like, in 2018, I felt like they were really hyping that up. They showed us a lot of cool stuff. It was definitely a bigger offering in terms of marketing. So it's kind of strange to see them really not showing anything on this at all. Dragon says Mario equals the best movie of the year for me. I thought it was awesome, man. I had such a good time watching that. I truly thought it was one of the greater, not greatest, but greater animation movies and a great start for kind of the gaming cinematic universe. Like, I know we've seen other things like Uncharted and stuff, and the Witcher TV show, which, yeah, you can say it's a book, but whatever. I think it was really good. It was exactly what we needed, and it made all the money, and it was a high quality product. We're going to see more Nintendo movies, and we're going to see other gaming movies in general. That's another thing too. Bun on Reg says, when the fuck are we going to see something on this game? Absolutely, I completely agree. It's taken way too long. I just beat Spider-Man 1. Very good game, Nate Diaz. Absolutely. I think it is a very good previous generation. It really stood out as one of the premium first-party AAA titles. It delivered. It gave you like a AAA experience as well as a blockbuster cinematic Marvel experience, almost like a movie. It was just awesome. I was, I loved everything about what we had saw before. And I'm excited for it. Speaking of other things that we're excited for, let's look at the mounts that you will get in Diablo. This is something I'm very excited for. Oh yeah! God, I'm so excited for that. Actually, the beta's out in the next couple of days. You'll be able to play it, break the server or something. Break the targets. Can't remember what it's actually called, but next couple of days they'll be doing, they'll be doing the what's it called? The 3 or 4 days where you could just break the server to try and make sure it's ready for this. But I think from everyone playing the beta, it's in such good, it's in such such a great state. Yes, it was a little bit buggy. Some people, but it was barely buggy actually. Like, it was pretty finished, man. And we played it like 3 months before it was coming out. And those small bugs, I'm confident that they can fix. Right, this isn't like Redfall shit. The server did crash a few times, but it's it was fine. Right, I think it was a really good showing of the beta. Ender says new beta. Yep, there's a new beta. Well, you know what I mean. New beta coming out on the 12th, I think. Gavin says, I think it's the 12th. Yeah. Server Slam, Twister. That's right. Server Slam. Server Slam. Very excited for that. Gavin says, yeah, Layman Gaming was great back in the day. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Terrible now. Appreciate you, man. Drawing Soul says the Gran Turismo movie trailer and Twisted Metal. Did you guys see the Gran Turismo trailer? I was wanting to show this on here, but I was worried because if I showed it, because then they'll like take it off. They'll take me off YouTube, man. They did that before with like the John Wick review, and oh my god, remember I did the Russell Crowe, the Pope's Exorcist? They blocked that in all countries. They literally stopped me midstream. Yeah, so look, I just I want to see more trailers on this show, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I could barely play 10 minutes before crashing Q Simulator 2023. Nicholas, yeah. Some people did have that experience, yeah. Queues in betas and stuff, that's pretty standard though. I don't know if that's that's usually not a full reflection of the actual game when it comes out, and that's not me being a Diablo apologist. It's me kind of being more like, we've seen it so many times for high quality games. You know, I remember like World of Warcraft, sometimes just to get into Blackrock, like one of the servers, you'd have to wait like 40 minutes, an hour. You know, like servers getting overloaded is just like part and parcel, sadly. But getting kicked out and not being able to get back in, that sucks. Yeah, no, trailers not even okay. The only trailers that I can play here are pretty much game trailers. So whenever I want to review the next movie I see, I'll have to just show you stills. That's like the way to do it. Kind of sucks, right? Yeah, so anyway, just to wrap up, everybody, Phil Spencer today. We feel for him. There's a sense of honesty, though, that is respected. But with that honesty does come a byproduct of people feeling like the future of Phil is very uncertain. The future of Xbox and their ability to compete, very uncertain. And I'd be wondering, what happens? What happens? I think if there's one thing that we can be certain of, if Starfield isn't a really high quality, fantastic game, I would suspect that everybody would then know that Xbox is out of this console generation. Like in terms of, it's like, what else are we excited for? Like legitimately, what else are we excited for? Elder Scrolls 6? I know I've made the joke 400 times, but we're not seeing it for like 700 years. Like we really aren't. Like we're not seeing Elder Scrolls for a long time. If Starfield doesn't slap, then man, not looking good for Xbox and for Phil. That very well may be the moment where Phil steps aside if Starfield is shit. The Gran Turismo movie is basically a huge ad for PlayStation. Yeah, that's what I thought too. It looked very ad-ish. It did look very ad-ish. Sam, is Russell Crowe secretly your dad? Man, I'd love that. He's a Chad. All right, he's a dude. He's a dude. Anything Russell's in, I love. I love Russell Crowe. Beautiful Mind, Gladiator, Pope's Exorcist. I'm going blank. What else has he done? Beautiful Mind, Gladiator, Pope's Exorcist, Robin Hood. You know what I mean. He's done some good shit. Anders says, I think Bethesda's got this. Todd Howard can't lose. I think that they have to have this. This is the most important title that they've brought out in a very long time. I would wager maybe this is one of the most important titles that Bethesda's ever brought out. Absolutely. And if they don't land this properly, it may not only be Phil Spencer that leaves. Who knows? Nah, Todd Howard's there, man, for good. Can you imagine getting rid of Todd? Couldn't happen. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Love you, appreciate you. It's been a very exciting, fun episode. I've got some other stuff that I wanted to show you, but I might show you guys tomorrow. You guys have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're at. See you next time. Laymen out.